Before the war, there were 47 road and rail bridges across the Rhine. On the 1st of March 1945, 4 were still standing. Within 9 days, the German army blew 3 of them. They had spent weeks methodically demolishing every crossing as they withdrew east, because the Rhine was the last natural barrier standing between the Allied armies and the industrial core of Germany. It is a wide, fast, cold river. Crossing it against opposition was expected to be one of the most expensive operations of the entire war in the West. Montgomery had been planning a set-piece assault crossing for months, involving thousands of guns, airborne divisions, and an enormous logistical buildup scheduled for the 23rd of March. And then, on the afternoon of the 7th, a lieutenant in an American armored infantry battalion came over a ridge above a small town called Remagen and saw, through the haze, a railway bridge still standing, the Ludendorff Bridge. Within 48 hours, the other 3 would be in the river, and this would be the only way across the Rhine in Allied hands. What happened over the following 10 days is one of the strangest sequences of the war. A bridge that 4 separate demolition attempts failed to destroy, that carried an army across Germany's last defensive line, and that then fell down on its own with nobody attacking it. To understand the significance, you need to understand what the Allies expected. German strategy after the failure of the Ardennes offensive in January 1945 was straightforward. Fall back to the Rhine, destroy every crossing, and hold the east bank. The river is between 200 and 400 meters wide along the relevant stretch, with a strong current. An opposed crossing requires assault boats, engineer bridging units, overwhelming artillery, and the acceptance of significant casualties in the first waves. Hitler had issued explicit orders on the demolition of bridges and had made the penalties for failure personal and severe. Commanders understood that losing a bridge intact was a capital matter, but the same orders created a trap for the men on the ground. Blow a bridge too early and you strand your own retreating troops on the west bank, which was also punishable. The demolition officer at Remagen, Captain Willy Bratke, and the engineer officer responsible, Captain Karl were caught precisely in that gap. Thousands of German soldiers and vehicles were still coming east across the Ludendorff Bridge on the morning of the 7th. They had to wait, and the Americans arrived while they were waiting. The Ludendorff Bridge had been built during the First World War in 1916 to 1919, specifically to move troops and supplies west toward the front in France. It was a steel arch railway bridge with 2 stone towers at each end, roughly 325 meters long. It had been designed, from the beginning, with demolition chambers built into the masonry, a standard precaution for a strategic military bridge. During the occupation of the Rhineland after the First World War, French engineers filled those chambers with concrete, precisely so the bridge could not be dropped quickly. By 1938, the Germans had the Rhineland back and wanted the demolition capability back with it. They could not get the concrete out, so instead they strapped 60 zinc-lined charge boxes to the girders on the outside of the structure. That detail turns out to matter enormously. American units of the 9th Armored Division came over the high ground on the West Bank at around 1 in the afternoon. The bridge was intact and visibly still carrying traffic. Brigadier General William Hoge made a decision that was well outside his orders. The American plan called for driving south, not crossing here, and committed his troops to taking it. The Germans tried to bring the bridge down 4 times that afternoon. Each attempt failed for a different reason. The first attempt was preliminary. Friesenhahn detonated a charge in the approach ramp on the west side, blowing a crater intended to stop vehicles from reaching the bridge. It worked as designed, but it was a delaying measure, not a demolition. The second failure was in the wiring. The main demolition circuit ran through a protected cable to an electrical exploder in a tunnel on the east bank. When Friesenhahn turned the key, nothing happened. American tank fire had been raking the structure. and the primary circuit had been cut somewhere along its length. The third attempt was manual. A sergeant named Faust volunteered to run out onto the bridge under fire and light the emergency fuse by hand. He did it. The charge detonated. The bridge lifted visibly off its piers. Timbers and decking flew. Dust obscured the whole structure. And when it cleared, the bridge was still standing. The fourth failure was in the explosives themselves. Because the demolition chambers had been concreted over by the French 25 years earlier, the charges sat on the outside of the girders, where far more of the blast escaped into open air. And the quantity was wrong. Friesenhahn had requested 600 kilograms of military-grade explosive. He received about 300 kilograms of a weaker industrial substitute, delivered late. It damaged the bridge severely. It did not sever it. A bridge survived because of a decision made by French occupation engineers in the 1920s to make sure the Germans could never blow it up quickly. The order to cross went to Company A of the 27th Armored Infantry Battalion, commanded by 2nd Lieutenant Karl Timmermann. Timmermann was 22 years old. He had been born in Frankfurt to an American soldier of the occupation force and a German mother, and had come to the United States as a small child. The first American officer across the Rhine was a man born in Germany. His men had watched the bridge get blown up and failed to fall. They had every reason to believe the Germans would try again the moment anyone stepped onto it, and that the whole span was still wired. They crossed anyway, running the span in rushes, cutting demolition wires as they found them, throwing charges into the river. Sergeant Alexander Drabik reached the east bank first, shortly before 4 in the afternoon. Within 24 hours, roughly 8,000 American troops were across. Within a week, 6 divisions. The German response was immediate and severe in both directions. Hitler relieved Field Marshal von Rundstedt and replaced him with Kesselring. A flying court-martial was convened. 4 officers connected to the bridge's defense were tried and executed by firing squad, including Major Hans Scheller, who had arrived at Remagen only hours before the attack and had been on the ground for a fraction of the relevant decisions. Radger was tried in absentia and sentenced to death. He was in American captivity, which is the only reason he survived. Friesenhahn, the engineer who had personally sent a man onto the bridge under fire to light the fuse by hand, was tried and acquitted. The Germans then spent 10 days trying to destroy the bridge by every means available. Heavy artillery, over-caliber mortars, repeated Luftwaffe sorties, V-2 ballistic missiles fired at it. The only recorded operational use of a V-2 against a tactical target, and frogmen swimming downriver at night with explosives. American anti-aircraft concentration around the bridgehead became among the heaviest of the war. Every attempt failed. On the 17th of March, at around 3 in the afternoon, the Ludendorff Bridge collapsed into the Rhine. Nobody was attacking it. It fell because of accumulated structural damage, the demolition charge that had failed to sever it, 10 days of artillery and bombing, and, critically, the vibration and load of continuous heavy military traffic, and the American engineers working to repair and reinforce it. Around 30 engineers were killed and dozens more injured in the collapse. By then, it did not matter operationally. American engineers had built pontoon bridges alongside it days earlier, and the bridgehead on the east bank was 25 kilometers wide and 11 kilometers deep. The Rhine had been crossed. Montgomery's massive set-piece assault crossing to the north went ahead on the 23rd as planned, into a strategic situation that had already been transformed. Eisenhower's assessment was that the bridge was worth its weight in gold. Estimates at the time suggested the unplanned crossing shortened the war in the West by weeks and spared the casualties an opposed crossing at that point would have cost. The Ludendorff Bridge was never rebuilt. All 4 of its stone towers still stand, 2 on each bank. The pair on the west side has held a peace museum since 1980. A bridge survived everything that was deliberately done to destroy it, carried an army across the last barrier into Germany, and then collapsed on